Hi guys, welcome to Wicked Movie Channel. 2021 is long over, but we decided to post a selection of horror movies that were best of the year personally in our opinion. If some of you missed any movies from this top, then it will be useful for you for sure. So, let's not waste any time and begin. Night Teeth. Young boy Benny, who dreams of becoming a cool musician, unexpectedly takes a part-time job with the help of his older brother Jay. For one night, Benny becomes a personal driver for two young rich girls who need to be taken in succession to 5 addresses in Los Angeles. Almost immediately, a simple job turns into a dangerous one, when the client from the first place bring a lot of blood-stained money into the car and openly threaten Benny, demanding to continue the route. This film belongs to the horror genre, but it cannot be called a scary one. In fact, it combines elements of horror, fantasy, action, and even romantic comedy. A movie on a vampire theme, with a simple but catchy plot. Looks easy and certainly will not disappoint anyone. The film was originally shot for a wide audience. 8th place, Night Teeth. Vicious Fun. Minnesota, 1983. A young film critic, Joey, who works for a horror magazine, decides to follow the boyfriend of his beloved neighbor, with whom she rents a house. As a result, the guy finds himself in a situation that he couldn't even imagine, and now his life is in danger. A low-budget horror movie that looks good thanks to its unusual concept, abundance humor, and detailed recreation of an aesthetic of the 80s. And the humor here is much more subtle than it might seem. There are rather harsh and rude jokes here, but even more irony and ridicule of genre cliches. The only warning is that the film is not for the mass audience, but for well-watched fans of the genre. If you're one of those people, then pay attention to it. 7th place, Vicious Fun. A classic horror story. A group of strangers set off a long journey on RV, each for their own reasons. As befits a classic horror movie, the company gets into a car accident and gets stuck somewhere in a wilderness. The car won't start, the phones don't catch the network, and there is nowhere to wait for help. Things get worse when few travelers attacked by insane cultists who have settled in the local forests. At first, this horror really lives up to its name, but it has one thumb card, a plot twists that make the story more original and interesting. The film came out quite bloody and cruel, but much more often mocking and full of irony. And in general, it turned out to be noticeably smarter than most competitors. Atmospheric and intriguing representative of the genre. 6th place, a classic horror story. Candyman. Young artist Anthony McCoy lives in a fashionable luxury complex, which was built in a once dysfunctional area. One day, Anthony encounters a local legend about the Candyman, a mysterious killer with a hook for a hand. An otherworldly monster, which can be summoned from a mirror by saying its name 5 times, becomes Anthony's source of inspiration. The film is a direct sequel to the 1992 horror of the same name. The movie doesn't just use the ideas, but expands and sharpens the mythology of the original. Jordan Peele, the author of the acclaimed Get Out and Us, had a hand in the creation of the film. It turned out to be a stylish horror with curious dialogues and relevant topics, and also with hard and brutal sense. 5th place, Candyman. A Quiet Place Part 2. After the death of the father of the family, his family with a newborn baby is trying to survive on the land invaded by monsters. Now other heroes appears in their world, a neighbor, a group of crazy survivors, and an entire settlement that managed to escape. The second part of the successful horror hit of 2018 has become larger and louder. Family members are forced to leave their shelters. There are more characters, and consequently, noises and screamers too. This is no longer a chamber family horror, but a real action movie with elements of horror, chases, and action scenes that makes viewers shrink in their chairs. Film critics often left cool reviews about the movie, pointing to a weak script, but in the top of the audience voting, A Quiet Place 2 was in the lead, perhaps because it was one of the first releases shown on large screens after the opening. 5th place, A Quiet Place Part 2. The Conjuring, The Devil Made Me Do It. 1981. Ed and Lorraine exorcise evil spirit from the boy David. Ernie, David's sister's boyfriend, who assists the process of exorcism, unknowingly makes a deal with the demon. The evil spirit chooses Ernie as his next vessel, letting the boy go. Time passes and Ernie brutally kills a man in a fit of madness. Ed and Lorraine try to help the investigation, while proving that the crime was completely unintentional. As the subtitle says, The Devil Made Me Do It. The third film in the franchise is fairly self-contained and doesn't require much knowledge of the first movies. Having changed the director, he began to differ in the way he generated fear. The first films were made more frightening with the atmosphere, then the emphasis is on screamers. This is a bit tiring, and therefore, fans of the genre from the middle of the movie are likely concentrate on a detective story, which is not boring here. The film definitely doesn't live up to the first two parts, but at the same time, it's definitely not a failure. Third place, The Conjuring, The Devil Made Me Do It. Fear Street. Fear Street is a trilogy released on Netflix, which turns out to be an ambitious and exciting project. The first part copies horror films in the style of Scream and makes you nostalgic for the 90s. The second refers to slashers of the 1780s. The third shows the events set in the 17th century, but in general is the culmination and logical conclusion of the franchise. The trilogy, in fact, is a mini-series, each episode of which is a full-length movie. The project is designed primarily for teenage audience, but it will also be interesting for the other fans of the genre, because in addition to the horror component, there are many nostalgic references to cult films of past years, as well as a fascinating detective story, with its secrets, intrigues, and unexpected twists. Second place, Fear Street. The Night House. Schoolteacher Beth is trying to come to terms with the death of her beloved husband Owen, who committed suicide for an unknown reason. A woman doesn't find a place for herself from torment and experiences. But later things get weird. Beth begins to be haunted by an invisible entity that may be Owen's ghost. As reality unfolds one surprise after another, Beth begins her own investigation and finds out things that are better not to know. This horror belongs to slow burners that have become increasingly popular in recent years. It also combines an unhurried drama about how a person tries to survive grief that has covered his head and confused mystical detective. The movie came out unhurried and measured, but at the same time not a bit boring and even dynamic. An excellent representative of new horror films, and personally, in our opinion, the best horror of the year. First place, The Night House. Well, this is it. Thanks for watching. Share your movie impressions in the comments below. And don't forget to subscribe and put the big thumbs up. See you. Bye.